Hey everyone, Nicholas Muy here. I'm the VP of Engineering and Platform and Security and the CISO at Scrut Automation. And I'm here with none other than Don Jeter from Torq. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick.
Great.
Yeah.
And we're actually doing this on location, basically.
On location,
On
live.
location, live from RSA 2026, not to be confused with a different year, as if they're different. But so, I mean, I was just walking around this week talking to founders, getting assaulted by media and marketing and all kinds of campaigns. And I was just thinking, even though it's 2026, Don, why is it that everything is still so unoriginal, feeling so derivative, that I almost feel like before LLMs, they were probably more original, even if shitty.
Man, there's like 600 exhibiting booths, right?
Holy
600 exhibiting vendors. And yeah, it's pretty bleak out there. You walk through and I've said this before, but it does remind me of like driving through the burbs, and it's just every house is like green and blue, AI powered, AI native, agentic. And yeah, I think with, generative AI, like the barrier of entry for creative has gotten easier, right? It's lower. It's easier to get in and make stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And everybody, thinks they're a designer at this point. And so I think creative direction is more important now than ever. Art direction is more important now than ever. And just teams that value and spend time on creative, because just because you can make a bunch of stuff doesn't make it good,
Totally.
And I think, we spend a lot of time as a small team thinking about how we want to show up, how we want to sound, what is the concept, how will it land, will it resonate, with the audience. But at the end of the day, if it like doesn't resonate with us, we don't do it. Like we gotta love it, and I think we go off of that a lot. Our kind of intuition is if we like it, other people will like it, and so I think that's been kind of a guiding thing for us. Is we gotta make stuff that we love and that we think is cool.
Totally. I was just thinking, you don't think the people at Quadrant Homes think they're designers when they make 50 houses that look the same?
Yeah, and I don't think it's intentional, right? But I think that there's not a lot of appetite for risk taking in this space still. You see a couple of vendors pushing things. I think Aikito's one that does really cool work that, spends a lot of time thinking about the creative.
Yeah.
Which, shout out to that team, Madeline and team. I think they do great work. Wiz historically has delivered, really beautiful concepts year over year, and really engaging, immersive experiences in their booth and then just across their marketing channels. But we really enjoy it. I think it's like, I think RSA and these events are theater, right? Like our attention spans are not there, right? Like, you're not going to get people to stop unless you come up with something that's truly unique and innovative in your creative. So
Yeah,
we spend a lot of time.
Don't be the subdivision of cyber company booths. Add some color to it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like you need some character. Like let's put some staircases just in the middle of the house here. That's what I don't know. For anyone who knows me, I'm not a big fan of the suburbs, but that's besides the point.
I'm going to end up there soon. So
I mean,
we hate too much.
We can only do so much.
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old, and we're like, we need a bigger yard. And then you're like, their Costco's so close,
okay.
Like you get older and you're like, this is very convenient.
Two RSAs from now, the booth is gonna have like a white picket fence, a lawn. It's gonna have like the dog. It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
no, it's good.
He gets a dog in a year. When he's 5, he gets a dog.
A
dog. I'm barreling towards the bird.
He'll be at the booth.
Yeah. Yeah, so we are doing like puppies. We're doing, children just running around.
Like, where did they get them? This is so bad. No, I mean, and I think for me, as I guess the supposed intended buyer and person being targeted by all the booths and super boring things, the ones that stand out, sometimes it's not even that they're like doing something crazy per se, but it is original and it's consistent too.
Sure.
Because I feel like the Wiz one, they're not saying anything crazy, but the design and the look and feel, like you
Yeah.
can see it from a mile away, right? You're like,
Totally.
that is a Wiz installation, like the one they have outside Moscone.
Totally. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
like the Wiz brand is iconic at this
Yeah.
stage in this space, right? And you know, I did a panel last night with Roz, and it's like
Yeah.
you guys did the playbook, right? Like you guys were able to build a brand and a community that had a deep emotional connection with your audience, right?
Which is
Which
crazy
is hard, which is
in cyber, right?
in cyber, right? And I think in a lot of ways they were the first to do it. CrowdStrike has a fandom too, right?
Oh,
Like
totally.
so I think that there's, Torq isn't the first one to try to push brand by any means, right? I think we look to those companies that came before Torq as inspiration and try to build upon it. And then I think like for us, it is about that emotional connection with our audience. Like, no one's gonna buy our product because we have a 30-foot skeleton in the
Yeah.
booth, or because we have Gravedigger last year in the booth.
Yeah.
No one buys because of that. But our job, I think, as marketers is to create the conditions where trust can be built, and like taking customers to, Monster Jam with their kids, right? Where they can talk to other customers who use Torq, like Carvana or Uber, like those conditions, those events, and why we had that truck in the booth are opportunities for customers to learn more about Torq from their peers. But yeah, like these other companies before us did a great job of that, creating trust, building connection, and that's what we look to emulate in a lot of ways.
What do you think is kind of next, since it is like an arms race? What are some
Well, I
things we
think
could
like
see?
when you look, we're in a race, an existential race in a category that's extremely crowded, right?
Yeah.
There was an analyst who put out a briefing that said there's 58
Only-
vendors.
only 58.
Only 58, yeah. Hey, welcome new players in the AI SOC space. It's hard to get 100 customers. It's hard to get names like
Yeah.
Uber and Pepsi and Virgin and Marriott and Prudential. Those are hard logos to lock down in the AI SOC space. I think it's a challenge, but what we've seen historically in cyber is when new categories emerge, there's typically one winner. You see this all the time. Look at, cloud, for example, CSPM, right? Wiz came and won it.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing Orca, right? Like,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
disrespect, but in a lot of ways, Wiz won, right? Like
Yeah.
Wiz won. And what I mean by win is it just becomes the de facto leader where every CISO is telling all their peers, just go with Wiz, right?
Yeah.
Same with CrowdStrike in a lot of ways in Sentinel-1. CrowdStrike, won and beat out Cyber Reason and Sentinel-1, and, you can name the others. And every CISO just said, go with CrowdStrike. Like nobody gets fired for going with CrowdStrike. So I think for us, it's a race, right? And we work really hard to become known as the AI SOC leader. Forbes just said Torq's the AI SOC de facto leader, right? The de facto leader in AI SOC is Torq. And so I think when you're walking through a floor and there's 600 vendors exhibiting, hearing about Torq, seeing Torq, talking to your peers about Torq, seeing us in the media, seeing us on social, having analysts talk about Torq.
Yeah.
I think when you're in information overload, like an event like RSA, your brain tries to create shortcuts to deal with all that information. And I think familiarity leads to legitimacy.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like we're loud, we're trying to be everywhere, we're trying to be in some ways absurd to get your attention, because if I can't get your attention and I can't create that familiarity with the brand, whether you love it or hate it, you're not going to consider us, right? Because there's so many to consider. So I think brand does a lot to create that short list, and then the product has to close that deal, right? Like we say brand's a moat, but that moat's dug by the product. So
That's fair. On a related note, I think given just how easy it is for people to look like they're creative, and how these, it almost like cosplay as creative people by using like Gemini and ChatGPT or whatever. What do you look for when you're, looking for folks on your team, or like folks to join your team, and who you think are kind of the best people to kind of model after in the space?
Yeah, that's a great question, because everyone's a designer now.
I mean, yeah, everyone's fake now. So
I do tell my designer, Matt, tout that I'm a designer, and
Yeah.
he absolutely hates
Yeah,
it.
he doesn't like that when you say that to him. When you say,
And I'm not a designer.
Yeah.
I just have a very particular taste.
Sure, yeah,
And I do know what I like. But I think I've been super blessed, I think, to work with a very small creative team for a number of years.
Yeah.
So my director of design, Matt Tao, and my director of content, Michelle, worked with me at my previous startup.
Cool.
And so that's my core team. And they've done a phenomenal job to grow this brand. And when they look to hire people on their team, it's, my feedback is you got to replicate yourself, right? Like we need more people who work as hard as you guys work at your craft.
Yeah.
And I think startups I think we over-indexed a little bit on work-life balance for a while because it's, in startups, like when you're in a race like we are, you're working really hard. And sometimes you're working more than 40 hours. And so we want people who understand that and have a natural just drive to want to win. And that's not comfortable for everybody. And honestly, it's not for everybody. And we're very upfront with that. Like we are in a race for the category and it's going to take a lot of work. And so the first thing we look for is just drive and just work ethic. Like we want people who are going to work really hard and be personally and emotionally invested. Like I think with anything, it's like, if you're not in it, like you're not going to put your best product forward. And I think, Matt and Michelle, who lead this creative, work at Torq, have done a great job of cultivating talent on their teams and finding people that are bought into what we're doing. And I think this is another testament to brand. Like if you do brand well, hiring gets easier because people see it and say, I want to be a part of that. Yeah. There's a magnetism to it, right? It feels like a movement you're creating. And so we look for people who work really hard, are super driven, but they don't have to have, I never look at like personally like a lot of the education stuff or, you have this technical background in this. I want them to be really interested and creatively interested, like, watch a lot of movies, like take in a lot of content online. And like, we look for taste too. Like taste is a big piece of the puzzle, I think, with all this stuff. But we hired a designer from Polar Stuff, the old brand from Portland. You're a Northwest guy.
Yeah.
So Polar Stuff, their head of design, joined Torq. Shout out to Chad. A guy named Michael Starkweather is one of our motion designers and a designer under Matt. And he was like, we had so many designers sign up for the role, and he like was the only one to direct message me on LinkedIn and say how bad he wanted to join Torq. And then he aced the interviews. And so like, we're just looking for people who want to be a part of it. And I think we've done a great job of finding the team and creating chemistry of people who want to work really hard and build something cool.
Yeah, so it sounds a lot like chemistry. I think work ethic, how do you just kind of trying to make a call on, test them out, kick the tires? Like
we do small, not massive homework assignments, but we also ask for portfolios. It's like, show us stuff you're proud of. I'm not talking like white papers or data sheets. I'm saying like personal projects. Like if you're not doing stuff creatively on your own time, how can you bring that? Like you need something to point to, say, I work hard, not because I have to, but because I like making stuff. I like to create. I think that's something that is really important to bring to work, is that I'm a creative person by nature.
Yeah, and that's harder to fake.
Yeah. Like I'd rather have designers who've been designing for years to start to use AI and hone their craft further, like to make their designs better, right? Like we start with AI for ideation and just getting things going, but all the stuff Torq puts out has our designers working on the file, right? Yeah. Like we're not putting out stuff straight from AI. In fact, like shout out to Sean, who's an illustrator. We hand draw the skeletons. These are hand drawn art, right? Yeah. Like, and I think that that's been kind of lost somewhere, is that this is art at the end of the day. Yeah. And so we value that a lot.
The difference shows. So
sure, you care, right? I think it's
you can see it.
You care. There's like a deep emotional connection with the work.
Yeah.
For my team, like we care deeply about this stuff. This is our art, right? Like nobody, like went to school or like, I got a 4-year-old who sits on my, lap sometimes on Zoom calls and asks everybody what's their favorite dinosaur, and I'll point to them and say, "What's your favorite dinosaur? What's your favorite?" Nobody's like sitting there when they're little and saying, I want to grow up and sell B2B
software.
software.
You did it,
right?
It's not your dream.
I don't want no, but I think it's like
Yeah.
you do grow up wanting to create,
Yes.
right, and be creative when you're little. And I think
Everyone tries to grind it out of you.
yeah, and then, but and I think that's another thing to call out. Like we have been extremely fortunate at Torq, our team, to have incredible support from our founders
Yeah.
and our board for this, because this ain't for everybody, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to trust that you've hired the right people to run marketing and get out of the way. And they've done a phenomenal job at giving us a lot of freedom to create stuff. And we're not always gonna, it's not gonna be for everybody, and we know that. But they've been super supportive from the beginning to say, yeah, we're in, like, go for it, So I credit the founders a lot for what we've been able to do, because it'd be so easy, and probably 90% of, CEOs and leadership teams would say, that's great, but we'd rather do the hacker with the hoodie, right? That's what we're trying to protect them against.
Yeah.
Or your audience won't get this stuff. But yeah, they've been incredibly supportive of this.
Yeah, it would be good if they actually spoke to their audience.
Yeah.
As the audience member, but they never asked.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. No, I really appreciate that, because I think people underestimate, or it's hard to tell, like, I think from the outside, and they're like, oh, it's kind of like a mystery, like what goes on in marketing is just a bunch of people just like throwing stuff on the wall. But I think if you peel back the layers, it really feels like there's so much thought that is required that goes into it, and you just can't automate that. That's the hard part, because it's sort of like all the busy work, sure, and all the coordination.
There's a lot you can
Yeah.
automate in marketing, but I think the seed, the essence of the idea of how are we going to break through all this noise, it's really hard to
Yeah.
put into Claude.
Yeah,
think-
no, totally.
And I think that's one advantage humans will have, is we have a deeper, for now, more intimate understanding of ourselves and
Yeah.
right, our species. And I think that intuition is hard to replace, right? Like I
Yeah.
think there's a human intuition with creative work that will not be able to outsource.
Yeah, no. I mean, and I think that's super helpful. So really appreciate you taking the
Yeah.
time to, get on here and catch up. I always love catching up with you. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
super
no,
fun.
Nick. Yeah, it's been super fun, and excited to see what you guys
Yeah.
do.
We'll definitely have more to talk about. And I really appreciate everyone kind of listening in for the conversation. So
Thank you.
lots to think about.